You know what I heard about leverage? So the word leverage comes up a lot. Like people talk about leverage. It's a word that we throw out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I heard someone say there's like 3 different types of leverage.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Light It Up Podcast. Our goal is to empower agents to think bigger and create a life by design. Today, we have a very special guest. We have with us Tom Storey from the Storey team out of Toronto. This year, they'll do about 2.5 in GCI, representing about 100 to 125 transactions. Some big numbers there, and a good portion of it, or at least 20 to 25% of it, coming from your YouTube channel. So excited to dig a little bit deeper on that today. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, guys, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
And the true story is we had to reschedule once, snowstorm, conflicts, Wi-Fi, and this is our first time doing this on a Saturday. So hopefully the energy is all there on our end.
I appreciate you guys showing up on the weekend. Yeah, I just felt so bad. The last time, like my internet just didn't work, and today there was a snowstorm. I'm like, I'm showing up here today. So I'm not even in my office. I'm using another agent's office just to do this. So let's have some
above
fun.
and beyond.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into lightning round.
Who's the worst boss you've ever had and why?
The worst boss? You know, probably when I was brand new in real estate, I started at a very, very small company, not knowing anybody. And it wasn't the guy that I worked for, but I would say it was like the guy that owned the company. Just self-serving. You know, if you're working your ass off in this industry and you know a little bit of your paycheck is going to someone else's pocket, that's okay. I'm okay with that where I am now in my career. But knowing that I would work so hard and he would get a piece of it for delivering zero value was kind of tough to swallow, to be honest with you. And he wasn't a bad person. It was just like the value proposition on if you're going to work somewhere, you want to, it's not just a one-way street.
Of course.
Yeah. No, that's good. And that helps you run your team and being conscious of the value you're providing to your members as well.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Be patient. I think industry specifically, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. My entire business has been sitting down with agents that have been doing it a lot longer than me and asking them what is working for them. And it's funny because you ask someone that's truly successful what they do, they're willing to like give it to you on a platter.
Yeah.
It's the agents that are posting their, Lamborghinis on Instagram and whatnot that are full of crap that are pretending that hide all these things. Anyone actually successful will tell you how they did it.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, that's the goal of this platform, honestly, is just to try to figure out ways to collaborate and share. I think we should just start doing all of our episodes on just failures.
That'd be great.
Right? Like, tell me all the shit that you did that went wrong.
Yeah.
A lot.
Right? What's one accomplishment you are most proud of?
I would say that I got into this industry at 22 years old. So I was very, very young. And the thought of just, even succeeding was wild to me. The fact that I could make this actually my career. And then by the time I was 25, I was speaking on a stage in front of 800 people. And now I get paid for speaking gigs all the time. I do the news, 2 times a month here in Canada. Wow. And it's just so crazy to me to think back. Like I was a shy person, and getting into this industry has truthfully built my confidence, because when you're passionate about what you're talking about, you can go and, you do these podcasts and go on stage and do live TV and whatnot. And the thought of, 10 years ago, me telling me now that would have just been like something I would never, ever expect.
Got it. So you're 32 now?
31 now. Yeah, 32 this year.
Nice. All right. What's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is actually a quote that I don't think I made it up, but I've heard it only a few times. It's called "Visibility Beats Ability." And I love it. I use it in all my trainings. I don't care how good you are at what you do if nobody knows, right? So it is clear when you do a transaction with a realtor that runs a mega team and you're like, okay, they were good, but are they like 10 times smarter than you, 10 times better than you because they do 10 times more business? No, they're 10 times more visible. Yeah. So it's not even being the best at being a real estate agent. It's being the best at being seen and being chosen by the consumer.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And that's, I think, the best-selling authors. It doesn't mean that that's the best book on that topic. It just means that they were the best at selling the actual book.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Well, it goes for anything though. Like I was reading something about the other day about just like how like 60% of people out there pick a bottle of wine just by like the label.
Yeah,
right.
That's why Yellowtail is so successful, because it's a simple
Or even
Well,
like there's articles out there back in the day about like Grey Goose and Belvedere, and it was like, are they the best vodkas? No, but they just have like the best
Right,
marketing.
Yeah.
When I'm driving up north here, like to my cottage, and I'm hungry and I see a Wendy's on like the easy way I could get off, I'm like, oh, I don't really want it, but fine, this is convenient, right?
Yeah.
Where like I could get off at the next stop and get like a local sandwich place, which would be better for me, probably taste better. But I'm like, this is easy. I can see it. Let's just make this happen. It's not going to make my day more difficult.
Yeah. You know about Liquid Death, right? The water company.
You told me about that.
Yeah. Have you heard about these guys, Liquid
No,
Death?
I haven't. No.
I couldn't give you all the numbers, but it's like hundreds of $1 million valuation. And all it is like, it looks like a can that you'd see like a dude who rides motorcycles drinking. And it looks like it's like
A lager beer or something.
like a lager beer or some crazy like energy drink, but it's just canned water.
Yeah.
And this dude created it because Sirhan does a whole poster, a reel about it. And he just saw that there was a niche for people being out in public, whether it's a bar or a restaurant or whatever, you know, not wanting to look like they're like, first of all, like you can't drink like a bottled water in a nice restaurant, right?
Yeah.
So he just found a niche, and it's just like this wild looking,
50 cents.
It looks
talks
like
about
you're
that.
drinking a beer, but
Yeah.
it's just water.
Yeah.
so much money in
a really good idea.
beverage
Yeah.
industry.
50 Cent came up with vitamin water when he was in the supermarket and he was looking at water. He was like, why is Poland Spring priced like double the amount of like the store brand or whatever the case it is? And he was just like, it's about the marketing. It's about the exposure that you're putting behind it, the brand. That's a great quote, man.
Thank you.
What chance encounter changed your life forever?
For business, I got to go to a dinner in my first 6 months in real estate. And I just so happened to be lucky enough that another person sitting at the table was one of the, like, you guys have Tom Ferry and Buffini in the States. We have someone in Canada named Richard Robbins, who is like the guy for real estate training. And I got to sit at a table with him early in my career and talk to him, and then started going to the events, got into coaching, and like completely changed my perspective on the industry. I wasn't setting big enough goals. He's been kind of my number one guy at like building the confidence, saying like, just go do it. Like there's no ceiling here. Like go do it. No one gets to tell you have to do it for this long to get these results. Like just go make it happen. And building that structure into my business and the community, I'd say that was like the number one thing that happened early that kind of set my career off.
Yeah.
What did you do before this? I know obviously
Nothing.
yeah, right out of college.
Summer jobs. Yeah. I always knew I wanted to give this a go. And I figured like, you know, start when I'm 22. I was living in my parents' basement, didn't have any expenses. I certainly wasn't like shot out right out the gate doing well. Like I struggled. That first 6 months was I think my first 6 months in real estate, I made $10,000. And I was doing leases in downtown Toronto. Like I wasn't even any close to selling something.
Yeah.
And I remember I had one buyer that a mortgage broker gave me, and they called me one morning and they're like, hey, we went to the open house on the weekend and we just bought it with the listing agent. I remember sitting down like almost crying, being like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I like sitting in my parents' basement, like running on leases, being like, this was my one thing. And so that was very, very difficult.
Yeah. I got started doing rentals too. It's interesting. David Hutchinson, he started with a lot of leases too. He's Toronto?
Yeah, I know Dave. Yep,
Yeah.
he's in Toronto. Yeah.
So it was just interesting because our market that we grew up in and started working in has a lot of rentals. So a lot of agents in our area get started on rentals too. It's good, man. You could get a taste of it quickly because it's interesting to be able to, or exciting, I should probably say, is, you know, to sign a lease on Friday and get paid on Monday. I mean,
it was like survival money, right?
Yeah.
And what's so cool is like that first year, I probably did 50 or 60 leases. It would get to the point that I'd walk into the condo buildings and I'd like know the concierge by first name.
Yeah.
So, you know, like then the clients were like, oh, like you must do this a lot. So I didn't feel like new anymore. Like I was getting over that imposter syndrome. And then once they become a lease client, they go into your database, you stay in touch with them. Like the amount of people that have come back and bought with us over the years is crazy. Like that's how I built my entire business.
Sam.
Smart. All right, last question. If you can pick anyone, dead or alive, that you could spend the whole day with, who would it be and why?
Ooh, maybe Steve Jobs would be top of the list, just to like see how he thinks. I think that would be very interesting.
Okay, so you'd analyze his thought process and stuff like that.
Yeah, not even so much about like technology, whatever, but just like how he looks at the world, I think would be very interesting.
Yeah. So what place are you in your life where you're thinking of like, I'm assuming Steve Jobs, you're thinking he's an innovative person, the thought process that he goes through. What comes to mind when you're thinking of somebody who's innovative?
Well, I think it's like there's the way that things are done.
Yeah.
And then there's disrupting the way that things are done, right? And like, he created a piece of technology that has literally changed how we run our life. Like, I'm not in my office today, so I don't have my DSLR camera today. Like, we're recording. My iPhone is my camera right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's just wild to think that like all the things we do are because one person had a thought and put it into action.
Yeah. And you starting in real estate at 22, there's like almost an identity phase that you go through, right? To be able to become the person that's productive, to gain the confidence of the client so they can work with you. Can you walk us through that journey and that struggle for the 6 months and until you were 25 speaking on stage? Because that's a big change from being in your parents' basement and struggling those 6 months. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think this is common when people get their licenses. They are just so excited to get an opportunity that they are very, very busy. And like sometimes even in my office now, I'll see agents that are sitting there and they're there all day. And I'm like, I want to shake them. I'm like, you don't get paid to sit in the office. Like you're here to book an appointment. Like figure out someone that's looking to buy or sell. Like you're here to pick up your phone, make some calls, do something, because business isn't just going to come to you. So I'd say the biggest thing for me in that first 6 months of kind of like failing is I was running around everywhere. I would meet anybody at any time. I didn't burn out at that point because I wasn't doing it long enough, but I would get home and just like pass out. And then the structure that came into my business in knowing like, okay, if I'm going to like basically building out your day where like, in the morning I'd follow up with everyone. I'd set up all my appointments. Then I'd have a 2 p.m., 4 p.m. and a 6 p.m. And my goal was to literally fill those slots with lease clients like in that first year. And then what started happening is I didn't have to run ads for leases anymore because I would get referrals from the past people. And then they'd start to buy. And then it just kind of like snowballed like that. And then really just being like super, super clear on what you're trying to do. Like if you think your goal is just to sell 10 homes, like you'll do it. But is that really what you got into this industry for? Like I think setting something crazy. And I even like my trick on, we set big goals with lots of zeros after them. But in my tracker, the zeros don't exist. So if our goal is 2.5 this year, it says 2.5. I don't see all the zeros because that would be like kind of intimidating. And when we put deals on the board, we don't put 10,000 or 20,000. We put 10 or 20 just to like see it go down. So I think having that structure in your business, and the analogy that I've always loved is like the dentist analogy, which I'm sure you guys have heard, right? It's like, I had to get an assistant. I can't be doing all these things on my own. That's the person booking the appointment for you. Now I have a team member that will go do the showing for me. I can jump in at the end, do the negotiations, kind of, be the education part, but I don't have to be every aspect of the business anymore. And frankly, my clients are better served because I'm not doing it that way anymore.
Yeah. Now so you learned the leverage. How fast did it take you to learn how to leverage your business?
Probably like 18 months to 2 years,
Wow.
To be honest with you. You know what I heard about leverage? So the word leverage comes up a lot. Like people talk about leverage. It's a word that we throw out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I heard someone say there's like 3 different types of leverage. There's time leverage, there's money leverage, and then there's impact leverage, right? So first you got to figure out your time, which is obviously, hiring the people for the tasks that are above the dollar volume in which you want to do, which is, any real estate coach will tell you that, right? Like you can't be doing those tasks. So that gets your time back. How do you get your income back? Well, if you have other people working for you, being the operator, you can make money without you physically being there.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have time and income figured out, then impact is whatever the hell you want it to be, right?
Yeah.
Spending time with your family, doing charity events, but you can't have impact unless you get time and income figured out. And hearing that for the first time, I was like, you know what? That's interesting. Let's figure out these first 2. So then I can kind of build the life I want on the third one.
Yeah. The author who talked about that was, his last name was Naval.
Yeah. Okay.
And he talks about the leverage of capital, labor. And then when you create content, it's something that you can reuse over and over again. And it lives without you even being there, right? So that's systems, procedures, information that's out there. And it's sad because that took us like years to understand that aspect of it. Yeah. Because it wasn't thinking in an entrepreneurial mindset. Assuming that's something that is inherent or there before you started in real estate, what kind of, you were doing summer gigs before starting in real estate, right? Where did that entrepreneurial mindset come from? Was it from exposure to that Richard guy?
You know what? It's interesting. My mother was always in sales, but she was not in real estate sales. She was like, she worked for this company called Pampered Chef that would like come to your house and do, Warren Buffett actually owns it. Well, he owns lots of companies. It's one of the many. They come to your house and do like a kitchen party. And then you'd buy like, it wasn't Tupperware, but it was like stones and like things to cook with. And I could see her kind of like running her own business and going like, okay, that's kind of interesting. I didn't really love the idea of like sales until I got into it and then like really started liking it. But what actually happened was one summer I was doing a job with my uncle and he had a business that would hang these TVs. It was like 10 years ago, hang these TVs on your walls, these heavy TVs. And one of the houses we did just so happened to be the guy was a real estate broker. He owned a Remax franchise. Nice. And his house was insane. And I was like, dude, what do you do? Like, just like, what's going on here? And he broke it down to me. I was like, all right, like, might as well give this a shot earlier in my age and not regret it later. And, lucky that obviously things have worked out.
That's awesome.
That's funny. I remember growing up, I used to do like catering and bartending on the weekend.
Yeah.
And for like this catering company, and I was at this one dude's house that was like, I was probably like 19 and this dude was probably 30, hedge fund dude, and just mega. It was like a $10 million house. And I remember asking him that same question. I'm like, hey, what do you do? How do you do this? Like, how do I do this? And he's like, he sat me down. Actually, I think I had lunch with him after that. I was in finance like earlier, but it was real estate finance, but same sort of like, I was like, I want this.
Yeah, right.
Whatever you have, whatever you created here.
Which goes into what Tom was talking about in terms of proximity, right? Proximity is power. And that's something that we always say that every time we sit down in a mastermind or we speak to someone and we get information from them and they expose us to something that they're doing, there's a dollar amount that's correlated that can impact your business. The only thing that's you're really accountable for is how fast you implement on it to try it.
It's interesting you say that is because I've noticed that as well. I've done a bunch of mastermind groups. I would actually say to any real estate agent, you should all be in some type of coaching, but even if it's not the accountability factor, which is obviously huge, even if you just show up to the events and talk to people, that on its like the community is worth it on its own. What you'll learn from that. Yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing is like, it's not just what you pay on a monthly basis or whatever. It's like the actionable items. Like I was in a group last year and to be in that group, you had to do over 2 million in GCI. And I felt like the small fish because there was people way bigger than me in there. And what I noticed is every month we would come back and have a conversation. If there was an idea the previous month, every single person in there executed on it. It's like, they're not learners. They're people that they get shit done. Yeah. They have an idea. They're like, it's in action the next week. We're not waiting on this. Yeah. Where a lot of people just like take 18 training courses and don't do anything. And it's like, well, you got to do what they say also.
Yeah, and I think it's something we always say on here is action is better than perfection, right? So just coming back and implementing something immediately, even if it's fucked up or it's not working the right way or it just looks ugly. I remember even like when we first hired an editor to start just putting out reels from these episodes, I would just go home and be like so frustrated. I'm like, it's not the correct grammar. It's not the right English. It's not even the time mark that I wanted. And now I'm just like, just put it out there. Just put it out there. And like, it's 95% of the way there, but you just get so frustrated. But it's like, it's putting it out there and getting the visibility, like you talked about before, is so much more important. And a lot of times people aren't even seeing those typos or the things that you didn't necessarily want.
And if they saw them, that's great. It means they're paying attention. You know what I mean?
It's
like, likely they're not going to notice it, but if someone's that into your stuff and they notice a few, it means they're actually kind of paying attention. Right?
Yeah.
When you look at it in terms of like implementing things and trying to go into it quick, from that mastermind group that you're in, was there anything that you were exposed to that changed your business significantly?
Yeah, you know what? Most of it was mindset and most of it was these people had problems I couldn't even comprehend. So those calls were not, what new lead source are you guys using? Or it's like, okay, I need to get an operations manager for my team because I'm taking up so much time for me talking to all my agents, or we need to bring the staging in-house because the amount of money we're spending. So most of those conversations was like big picture stuff. And that was very interesting to me because I haven't really been in a lot of those groups. Mostly it was like, here's how you find someone. Here's how you create an amazing process for them. Here's the follow-up plan. Here's the CRM, yada, yada. But this was like, how do you run a 45-person team that is asking you questions and your phone's going off all day and you feel like you're like an adult babysitter, right? That was very interesting.
Yeah, we had the privilege of being inside of a mastermind group, and the people that were in there, we were literally the smallest fish. We were goldfish in the ocean compared to them. We had people in there that are doing 1,000 transactions a year, people doing 700 transactions a year, building empires. And when we would go on the mastermind call, we would just be very quiet, just listening like, yes, they want to hire these people. And you learn that leverage of labor is the most important thing, and becoming a leader and knowing what seats belong in what chairs, or what people belong in what seats, is the most important thing.
Right people, right seats.
Yeah. And that's like the hardest thing, because if you can't scale, you don't have a business. You're just a highly paid technician throughout the whole process.
The favorite quote I ever heard about this was a Dean Jackson quote. Dean's the man. You guys should get him on. He's like the godfather of real estate marketing. He calls it tiger proofing your business. And I love it because his example is like Siegfried and Roy in Vegas. They had the tiger. Unfortunately, one of them got mauled by the tiger and the show gets shut down, right?
Yep.
But the Blue Man Group, you buy a ticket for that. What do you expect? Some blue men beating on a drum. You don't care who they are.
Yeah.
So they've tiger proofed their business. You can take that anywhere.
Tiger proofed. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're the only one, if the tiger mauls you, your business is worth nothing. And I love that analogy. Is like, are you building a brand? Could you really right now in your business go away for 2 months and the deal flow continue the way that it is because the people are in the right places? Yeah. And most agents, the answer is no.
Yeah, 2 months. I'm struggling with 4 days,
Right. Yeah.
And it's tough. It's well, I think some people can get it to a point where you have administrative people who can answer questions and support the business and get the transactions that are already pending to the closing table.
Right.
But are new transactions coming in while you're out of town. So if you stop prospecting, does the music just completely stop?
And that's it, where it's like, is there systems that you can put in place that you are still the one that creates them, but someone else is actually running them? And even like, we really don't do any online paid leads for our team. Like, we're 75% repeat and referral. We have a good strategic alliance. We do a lot of B2B, like realtor to realtor business. And then the new business is like a mix of old school. We still send 10,000 flyers a month, and it works. It works because no one else is doing it anymore. But then the other side is like, then we also make educational content online, and that creates a bunch of business. So it's like this weird mix of, if we know that 2021 is going to be an outlier year for North America for maybe the next decade in terms of transactions, mathematically, if you have the same amount of people in your database and you do the same things you've always done, you're going to do less business this year because the pie is just smaller. So I think this year, agents that have kind of plateaued, I'd be looking at new opportunities. And for me, it's direct mail and YouTube. But it can be open houses, it can be online lead streams, it could be whatever you want it to be. But that's how you're going to like actually do better this year compared to 2021, which was a year where, it's like we went to a pizza party and we ordered double the amount of pizza by mistake, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting because when you're business planning and, for your team, would you consider yourself the visionary? Would you consider yourself someone who's just like the integrator, where you like to be alone and just implement things right away? Which role do you think you are?
I'm definitely the ideas guy, but I have other people that implement the ideas.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So being in a position where you guys are on track to do 2.5 million for the calendar year, thinking about scaling and growing from 10 years from where you were to where you are now, what does the next 10-year journey look like? And what systems and processes would you need to work on to leverage to grow it even more?
Yeah, I thought about this a lot, because even if you had asked me 5 years ago where I'm at now, if I had told you now, I've done way more than I thought was ever possible, truthfully. So it's like, okay, once you get to a certain point, you don't have to double your business every year once you make a certain amount of money, because you're covered, you're okay, you're enjoying it. And then it just becomes like stressful, right? But if I look at what is the next step, so right now my job and my team is I find listings. I wake up every morning trying to find a seller. That's what I do. I create content, which helps us find buyers as well, which I educate, and then the team takes to the finish line. But the way I try to think about it is, if I give you a buyer on my team, they're kind of at the 20 or 10 yard line and just run it in for a touchdown. Like, I'm not giving it to you and you got to run all the way back. Like, it's not, I've done my due diligence. I've gotten to the point that they're ready to go. But I'm still very much an owner operator in my business right now. And if I could think of like, okay, well, where would I want to take this in 10 years? Probably non-selling agent and just owner. Have people take over the listings, train them on our listing process, and still do what I like to do, which is make the content, go to the events, that keep that B2B relationship, do more speaking gigs, that kind of stuff. Yeah. That would probably where I'd see it. But I'd have to be okay with the fact that for the first few years of doing that, my personal income would go down because you're giving more away. So that's probably what it would look like.
Got it. So essentially, because 75% of your business is repeat and referral, and B2B, like agent referrals through content that you created and the world, the culture around that, more or less. And you would leverage the other percentage through, I guess, digital marketing, through finding sellers and stuff like that.
I'd have to do something with my time, right? So I'd probably go really hard on the YouTube stuff, like really pump out stuff on there and build something big. Because I just see that as an opportunity that no one else is doing. Like very small percentage of agents in whatever market you're listening to this from, if you typed in your market on YouTube, who's actually making consistent, meaning minimum of video a week educational content about what's going on, you have zero competition. But you have a ton of competition on every other social media platform.
Talk to us about the YouTube channel you've built and what your topics are, what your focus is. Is it focusing on buyers and sellers?
It has shifted. YouTube for me started as a place that I would put my videos so they would show up on my website, right? Like that was the way that I thought about it. And then what started happening, I'd say like 18 months ago, because I was throwing videos up, but with no plan, no call to action. They were just going into the abyss and they would get like 100 views or something, right? Then I made a conscious decision that, okay, I'm gonna start this. So right now, as of recording this, my YouTube channel is at like, I don't know, 8,500 subscribers. Like it's not massive, but we have a pretty good loyal following. My average video will do anywhere from, I don't know, 2 to 10,000 views. Some of them will do 20,000 and some will do 1,000. But what I've noticed too is that the view versus appointment delta is skewed. So I can have, like I had one that I did an interview on live TV and I kind of just reposted that as a video that did 50,000 views. 0 people reached out to me from it. And the watch time was down. So the real ROI on these type of videos is appointments, not views. Where then I just put out a video that I would say every agent should be doing this. It's a 45-minute video going over how to buy a condo in Toronto in 2023. You can pick any property type, any market. And it's basically my buyer presentation to the internet. And it's 45 minutes, and it's right now it's at like 4,500 views, which is below my average, but the watch time is way up. And all the comments are not like, you stupid real estate agent. They're like, thank you so much. This is the most comprehensive step-by-step guide. That video alone, I've got 6 appointments from in the last month.
Wow.
And so what I tell everyone about YouTube for agents is the way you have to think about it. A Hollywood actor will do one blockbuster movie to get paid, and then they'll go do 2 indie films they actually care about. Right? So the way that I think of video ideas now is I will just type in Toronto real estate to Google. You can do the same thing for your market. And I click news and the headlines have already been written for you. So the title of my video is, let's say like, I don't know what it is, like interest rates are going up in the States or the Fed's going to make a change. Like whatever the headline is, that's the title of your video. That's how you start your video. Then you have to have a call to action. So I use Calendly, but it's basically like, hey, thank you so much for watching this video. If you find any value in this or you want to book an appointment with me, you can do that. Just go into the first link in the description. You can book a buyer call, a seller call, or a discovery call at a time that works best for you. So it's a 15-second call to action. It's casual, right? Like it's not a sales pitch. And we did, so I ran these numbers because I just presented on this. In 2022, we got 84 Calendly appointments from YouTube.
Oh,
wow.
Turned into 27 firm sales. We've already done 17 Calendly appointments this year, and we're recording this early March, and we've done 4 sales already. And what's so cool is that they're like, hey, Tom, like, it's so cool to talk with you. Like, we watch you. Like, we think we know who you are. It would be great to work together.
Yeah.
So it's what you're creating is you leads, and you leads are what I would want to focus on. They reach out to you, and the property is secondary.
Yeah. And you have leverage too. Right?
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of these, what you're referring to, are buyer side.
YouTube is heavy buyer.
Yeah.
But which goes to the team. I'd say 80-20 buyers to sellers from YouTube.
Are they then upset though that they're seeing the video that's Tom Storey and then they're being passed to a buyer's agent?
No, it's a really good question. So I will still do the initial buyer call. They will speak with me. And then the way that I'll go through it with them is like, hey, so the way that I run my team is I actually have 3 buyer specialists and their full-time job is to show you properties. The reason that we did that is because the Toronto market, even in times where it slows down, does move pretty good for the quick properties. So I don't want you to miss on any opportunity. So I'm absolutely a part of this. This is my cell phone number. You have my direct line. I'm not the one that opens the door for you, but when it comes time to make an offer on that property, if you want to do strategy, we'll jump on a Zoom call and I'll be your guy.
Yeah.
So
that's the same thing we do. Yeah.
Never an issue.
It's all about how you present it, though.
You really gotta like talk up your team member too. Don't say this is my junior agent, like that's gonna take you out. Like, hey, this is my partner,
my rookie agent.
Yeah, like don't give titles if you want, but like make sure they sound good. Like
you have to package in a way where it's actually beneficial for them.
Yeah, and everything that you do, it's essentially the MMFI approach, which is make me feel important.
Yeah.
So for them, it's like, hey, this is my showing partner. I don't want you to feel like you're waiting on us. Rather, we're waiting on you to let us know, so we're available whenever your calendar is. And that's that perspective shift and managing those expectations is a big thing that new agents struggle with as well, right? But that makes a world of a change when you're trying to detach yourself from being on every single showing or every single appointment.
Yeah. I was just going to say that back to the leverage thing for a second. So most of these YouTube videos are attracting people to set an appointment on Calendly for a buyer consultation. Well, on the seller side, if you're able to attract a seller, it just does give you a lot more leverage, because if someone's coming to you for your services rather than you prospecting them like an Expired or a FSBO, I think it changes the roles a little bit.
It's an unfair advantage. I'm listing 2 condos next week that are sellers that came from YouTube. Like you walk in and they're like referencing things you've said in your videos.
Yeah.
Like it's not an online lead. It's a weird, we gotta set ourselves in check here, but like they do put you on this mini pedestal that they're like excited to talk to you, where most online leads, when you call, they're like, who the hell is this? Why are you calling me?
If you keep calling me, I'm gonna block you.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that. Like they want you to call them.
Do you know Jazz Takar?
I know Jazz very well. He's in my office. I just did his podcast last week.
Oh, really? Oh, I think I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had him on. He was giving us, we have a good reel from similar conversation where he's like, listen, he's like, that's where the leverage thing came from, honestly. He's like, I have a ton of leverage because a seller who comes to my office, he's like, they already know that I've got a lot of energy. So that might annoy the hell out of them. But if they're calling me, they're probably okay with it. They already know I'm Indian. So we get that out of the way. He's like, they already know that like I'm intense and I'm direct and I'm to the point. He's like, all that stuff's out of the way.
Yeah.
It's interesting to look at it that way.
And what it also does? Anyone that watches your videos first and doesn't like you, they're never gonna call you.
Yeah.
So you've also just saved yourself from maybe an asshole that you don't want to work with anyways, that also thinks you're an asshole, so it's equal.
Yeah.
But you don't know that when you meet a stranger. At this point, you're just never gonna get that call. So you've saved yourself from all these annoying things, but you're never actually gonna know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did the exposure come from to make this idea happen?
So it started in 2015. I decided that I was going to do video. I was frustrated because I felt like this was a year and a half into the business. I was frustrated because I felt like on a client experience level, on a market understanding level, I was good, but I wasn't getting a seat at the kitchen table because I was 23 years old and like could barely grow a beard now. I could barely grow a beard then. It was tough.
Yeah.
So I decided, okay, I'm going to make these 3-minute market stats videos. Market stats would come out at the beginning of the month. And I would sit there like in my little condo and film this video, and I would send it to my lease clients that were in my database. And then I would throw it on YouTube.
What? Email or?
I'd use BombBomb.
Yeah.
And I would send it to them through that, through like a direct mail thing online. And then I would put the video on YouTube just so it could be on my website as well, just in case anyone went there. But at that point, I was embedding them in BombBomb, so it was like actually in the email. And that's how it started. And then what happened was, the company I work for is a Canadian-only company. It's called Royal LePage, but we have 20,000 agents. We're fairly large here. They have a PR department. Their people started seeing my stuff and going like, oh, you can talk in front of the camera and you seem to know what you're talking about. Would you ever want to do media for us? And then it started with newspaper. And then, now I've done every media that exists here in Canada, and I'm doing it frequently. And it's not like I do the news and someone calls me and is like, come sell my house immediately. I saw you. That's not how it works. But my past clients think it's cool. The industry thinks it's cool. The B2B thinks it's cool. So everything started from filming videos in my tiny little apartment that sucked. That got me exposure. This is the visibility aspect of it, which then over time led to all these cool opportunities.
Which is sick. So you remain front of mind doing that to your past clients and stuff like that. So you're omnipresent to people who knew you.
That was the whole point. I only made these videos for them. That was the only point. Is like, I just, the average consumer moves once every 7 years, unless they're an investor in the military, right?
Yeah.
So they don't need us that often. So my whole mindset with my business, even to today, is like 95% of the time, the stuff we send our clients, they could care less about.
Yeah.
they don't care. So it's okay if they don't answer all your emails or respond to your videos or come to your events. When they need you for that moment of time, are you still following your plan? So they thought about you then. That's like, we just sold a $1.2 million property to a client who did not respond to an email for 5 years.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. Man.
Like,
yeah.
And then he reached out, was like, hey, like, you know, can you help me sell my condo, buy a new place? I'm like, yeah, hello. I've been trying to talk to you. But he was living his life.
I've left you a voicemail every 3 months for the last 16 years. He finally calls you back and it's a pocket dial and you're like, oh shit.
Is it my bad? Didn't mean to. So talk us through, you were talking about looking up the trending topics more or less and knowing the title. So just so I understand it correctly, are you making one trendy like video to try to get people into your page and then doing two, like a third of them is trendy videos to get people to your channel and then two of them or 2/3 of them are value based?
I would actually say it's the opposite. I'm going two trendy videos, one value-based video, going back and forth. The reason why is that the trendy videos will get you subscribers, likes, and views, and it will help you build authority. So, you know, if you have one view on your video and 60 subscribers, the chance of someone reaching out to you truthfully are low.
Yeah.
But if you do these videos to get the attention of people to then go like, okay, other people show up here every week. And you know, for the first 6 months you do it, you're going to feel like you're talking to nobody, but that's okay. People, if you consistently do it, they will show up.
We know what that's like, by the way.
Yeah. It's funny you guys have a brick wall. Like I had Neil Dingra on our video course thing. You guys know Neil. He's in LA, a mortgage broker. And he's like, for the first 6 months, it feels like you're talking to a brick wall. Like legitimately feels like you're talking
But that's
to a
like
brick
sales though too, right?
Yeah.
We talk to ourselves all the time.
I think the one thing that's so powerful about video that no one talks about is it makes you a better real estate agent. If you're going to record yourself talking about the market, you better know what you're talking about. So it makes you look at the data. It makes you look at the stats. It keeps you educated and up to date.
We were talking about that yesterday. I said, if nothing else comes from this goddamn podcast,
Better presenter.
we are better presenters. We're better speakers. You know, I learned to not talk over him. He learns to not talk over me. We learn to not talk over you, hopefully. It helps you improve your presentation. I mean, I'm sure that's what got you onto the stage, right? And do some
100%.
speaking engagements, right?
And for the speaking engagements at the beginning, it was a lot of like during the pandemic, everything was online, obviously. And I spoke to like, I don't know, probably 40 brokerages that year. And my name just kept getting passed around. And some had speaking budgets and some didn't. But I was like, nothing else is going on right now. I'm going to do this. But now I'm paid for everything I do. Like, and it's cool. And it's never going to take away from the actual sales thing of the business, but I enjoy it. And, you know, if I get paid a little bit of money for an hour to talk to somebody about something I'm passionate about, and then they're also realtors, usually not in my market, you're just built. It's like the long-term effect.
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely expanding the network from there.
I wanted to go back to those videos real quick. So I think you said two trending videos and one value-based video. I mean, how do you present something in your market without it being boring? Like market stats obviously are boring. Like there are people, I can't name names on here, but that do market stat videos in our market that literally I'm out in like
10 condos
3 seconds. It is
sold
dreadful
in 90 days.
And we've all put out some really
Yeah.
rough videos. If we go, you know, scroll to the bottom of the page far back enough, but how do you make those videos exciting? How do you make them interesting, unique?
Well, even if you make them as interesting, as unique as you possibly can, they're still going to be kind of boring. So let's like acknowledge that. Like, so I literally filmed one this morning and it was the February market stats for Toronto. Now this is our market does year over year numbers. Anything compared to last February is going to look really, really bad.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we've had 8 rate hikes here. I'm not sure where you guys are at. And the average price from the peak of the market was down 18%. So that video, the first 10 seconds is going to go, the Toronto Real Estate Board just reported that year over year prices are down 18%. That's the hook of the video. The title of the video is going to say the exact same thing. And the thumbnail is going to be like me going like this with like a minus 18% beside me, right? And then I'm going to say, you know, in today's video, what we're going to look at is those year over year numbers, but we're also going to look month over month to show you as a potential buyer or seller what you would actually need to know in today's market. Then I go into the call to action and ask them to like and subscribe and all that stuff. And then what I do is I will literally just share my screen. Like I record everything on Ecamm Live and it's for Mac computers. It's a streaming software, but you can do everything in house. So it's like my camera, my audio, everything becomes one file. There's no memory cards it's saving to the computer. So I film a 12-minute video of me talking. I never stop if I make a mistake. And then I just cut out the ums and ahs and all the crap. And I will share my screen and literally bring up the market stats and like show them, right? Like never tell them what you can show them, right? Because then they actually see what's going on. And then I will engage the audience and say, you know, we're down 18%. Some people thought it'd be 30, 40%. Let me know, comment below. Are you surprised by these numbers? So that's kind of a few of the tricks that we use. And then I never have these videos scripted. I kind of like have 3 bullet points I want to talk about, but every video is the same structure. Intro, ask them a question, have a call to action, then go over what you're talking about, break it into 3 points, then wrap it up. Yeah. And even at the end of videos now, it's not like I used to have music that would come on as it was ending. I don't want them to know it's ending anymore. So we end really quick because if they know it's ending, they'll cut out early. So they think it's not a lot happening. And I'm like, thanks so much for watching. Bye. so I get them to the end because YouTube likes their attention.
KIRO has the same process with chicks too, right?
Gets to the end, cut
It's
them
like,
off.
I don't want them to know it's ending.
And all of a sudden, I'm like,
I've got more. He's
the
single, so I have to do this to him.
Yeah.
you have it broken down to a science, essentially, the way you just broke it down to us, which is pretty cool. The one thing I think that's impressive is that your role play came off so natural and so actual. Like, we're talking about improving how we're presenting, putting emotion in conversation and stuff like that. Because we had a Chelsea Pites. Do you know her?
I've seen her stuff. Yep.
She's fantastic.
Yeah. She was talking about the psychology of the eyes through the screen. And when you did that, you looked right into the camera.
Yeah.
And that's like, I don't know if you were trained to do that or if that's like.
This man's a professional.
He is a professional. I'm admiring that right now.
It's that I've posted 350 videos on my YouTube channel and it becomes muscle memory, right? You don't even know half the time I'm like done recording a video. I'm like, what the hell did I just say? Yeah. And then I go back in the editing and I actually figure out what I said. But yeah, it's just you do something so many times. There's a really good book from Daryl Eves called The YouTube Formula for anyone that like wants to get into it. And the forward of the book is Mr. Beast. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he's basically like, your videos will suck when you get started. Your first 10 will suck. Your next 10 will suck. Your next 10 will suck. And then by number 101 video, you'll still suck, but it'll be better than the beginning. No one that I know that is doing real business from YouTube in our space has 10 videos posted.
Yeah.
Right.
They all have over 100. All of them.
Yeah.
Like, so it's a progression.
It's consistency over time and just that will build up. But the one thing, that Chelsea Pites was talking about is that when you make eye contact with the camera and the viewer's looking at you almost as if they see you in front of them, they can't differentiate the difference between meeting you in person and seeing you in video. So you're able to build so much rapport with them through there. So people who will connect with you will actually be like, oh my God, do you know what is going on with him? Like, he was talking about that. That's awesome. Yeah. And they're able to connect with you on a personal level, although they know nothing about you personally.
It's very, very interesting that, I've even had some people that like when I'm walking to my office will stop me on the street and be like, I watch your videos. I'm like, that's cool. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
We're like, and some people when they will get the call with me, because it says in our buyer consultation one, it says like a story team member will reach out, but it's always me. And they're like, whoa, we didn't think we'd talk to you. And I'm like, dude, I make videos in my basement. Like, you should not be excited to talk to me. But if someone watches you consistently, they feel like they know you.
Right.
And you know what? It's a way better way to do business. Like, it's fun.
Why is it that you think a lot of other people don't do video right away?
Well, I mean, it's the getting over yourself thing on like, what do I look like? What do I sound like? Once you get over that, then it's the actual consistency of doing it, where it's easy to do a green screen video on TikTok and and point at something behind you and at stats or whatever. That's easy. It doesn't take very long. To put out, like, my model is one video every 5 days on YouTube. That's what I'm at. It takes a lot of time, and I could not be doing this if I was still showing properties to buyers.
Right.
So that's why less people are doing it on this platform, because it's difficult. It's a commitment.
And those videos you're putting out every 5 days, those are the ones you said you're recording yourself on Ecamm Live.
Yeah, recording myself. My YouTube videos, I still edit them because it takes me 20 minutes to edit them now, because it's such a structured, nothing changes.
Sounds like you've really got the process down though too.
Yeah, but because I've done it 300 times.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing we have our creative meetings of seeing how we can actually get this exposed to more people and more people. And we always bicker about it because we know nothing about it. It's like Chinese to us. And you read things where it's like, you know, the thumbnail is everything. Like you should make the thumbnail before you even make the content that's there. You read things where it's talking about like the way you push it shouldn't be focused on like pushing it through social media. It should be pushing it within the platform and all other aspects.
Yep.
What are some tips and tricks that you can share for someone to actually get more exposure, get more subscribers and engagement, and build a community around that?
So the headline is by far the most important thing, the title of your video. It has to be captivating. If it is like, so here's the way to look at it.
And you said you picked the headline before you even do the video.
Oh yeah, that's how I pick my videos. That's how I pick what I'm going to talk about. So there was an article that said 25% of Canadians are worried about their mortgage payments. Now, if I had said 75% of Canadians are happy and living their lives and not worried, you're not clicking on that video.
Right. It's got to be some kind of
scary.
Yeah. It's like,
Trigger
it's
emotion.
Like, yeah, it sells. The scary stuff sells. And so what my videos really are is debunking headlines. That's kind of what I'm doing. And if they're valid, I'll say that they're valid. But then the thumbnail then has to be like, can't be cluttered, like 1 or 2 words on there, your face, and then a number or something like. And then what I would say is that when you pick let's say like, what's like a local news source for you guys? Like what would the news be?
CNN, for example.
CNN. Okay. CNN puts out a headline on real estate. You use that headline as your video title. What happens when people are looking at the CNN stuff online, because you've used the same headline and Google is YouTube, they will have the CNN and then your video might actually pop up below. So when I look at where my views come from, when a video really takes off, something happens where it gets external views, which is outside the platform, and you can break it down to where these external views actually come from. Like YouTube Studio is amazing for all the analytics. And sometimes my external views will be double what my YouTube recommended or subscriber views are, because it's the same headline as somebody else's thing. And then you pop up for an article that is published by like a massive publication because it's Google.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that works. And then on the podcast side of things, you guys are doing the right thing. On our podcast, everyone we've had on that has a big following on YouTube shares it on their community tab. And then that episode does way better than all of our other ones. Right?
Yeah.
So what you just said, I have no idea what that means. What does that mean, community page for YouTube?
I think you might have to get to 500 subscribers for it to unlock.
We're almost 400.
Okay. So you guys are right there. So basically the community tab, you can ask questions, you can post videos, and you can do polls. So it's like kind of like your subscribers become this community. And if we have another person on that has a big following, we'll just ask them like, hey, do you mind posting this podcast video in your community tab of your channel? And most of them do. And you can see as well on the analytics where the views actually came from, and community channels are massive for us.
Yeah. So Tom, when this video comes out, will you share it on the community
100%.
tab?
Yeah.
Sweet. Because by at that point, we'll be there.
And what should the headline be for this title? This is actually really good. This is actually like a sample in
And Tom,
itself.
will you edit this video?
No. By the end of this video, if you're still listening, this was a sample for what Tom has done that worked for him as well.
Yeah.
And these are the tips and tricks, so you're going to see that there too. What should the headline be, Tom?
For this video or just any video?
For this video, for this podcast.
So, that's interesting. So,
Covered a
for
lot of
agents,
ground.
Yep.
You know, how to sell 25 homes a year from YouTube, or
The how-tos are always good, right?
how to, or, you know, don't make this mistake when posting videos on YouTube, or those would be the first two that like come to mind.
Okay.
Like it.
We'll confirm it with you before we make it live. I think that would be a great idea. And then for the thumbnail, that would be an awesome idea. This could be like literally like a sample piece, which would be awesome based off of what you've learned. And by then that's going to be pretty wicked. Wicked cool.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We really do appreciate you doing this on a Saturday. I'm super excited that we were able to reschedule and coordinate everything. Definitely a lot of great. I've got 2 or 3 pages of notes here, and
we should go to Toronto with all the Canadian guys and just get really drunk.
yeah.
Come hang out with me, Dave, Matt Leonetti, Jazz. We'll have some fun.
Awesome,
Sounds
man.
good, man.
And if anybody wants to reach out to you, collaborate with you, have you for a speaking engagement, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Instagram to connect, probably the best, at the Story Team, but Story is spelled Storey. And I do have like 5 fake accounts right now, which has been an ongoing battle. So if I'm DMing you about crypto, it's probably not me.
Well, I'm happy we got the real Tom Storey on. So
Good, man.
That's pretty epic. Well, this
Thank
is
you
super
so much.
valuable, man.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.